Lady Charmaine, and my guest today is the newest addition to Lifetime show, Preacher's Daughters. And they're here today to talk about the second season, and I want you to help me welcome the Cassidys to the show, Megan and Jeff Cassidy. How you doing?
Hey, how are you? We're good.
Good. Well, I'm so glad you're able to join me today on the show. Now, for you, I want to say congratulations, and how does it feel being the newest cast members of a hit series?
It feels pretty good. It's exciting since we've never been a part of anything like this. But, yeah, the whole experience was a great experience, and we're enjoying it.
Yeah, it's been a good experience thus far. A little nervous and anxious at times.
I guess kind of waiting to see what the next episode is going to be about.
Exactly.
Now, since joining the show, how has your life changed, or how has it affected you since being on the show?
Well, since the shows came out, I'll be out in public, and then I'll see people, like, trying to take pictures of me and, like, you know, whispering here and there. So that's kind of weird. But other than that, I mean, my friends and my family who are close to me, nothing's really changed. Just kind of people that are on the outside seeing me who don't really know me. It's kind of like the star thing, but it's just kind of weird because I don't think of myself as, you know, being famous or anything like that.
Now, walking around the city when you were taping the show, did people realize what was going on, or did they just think you were just filming for fun?
Some people would ask, but for the most part, I mean, people just kind of minded their business. But, you know, some people would ask what we were doing, and then at that point, you couldn't really say. You just have to say, we're filming a docu-series, but you can't really let on to what you're actually doing.
Interesting. Now, how did your family, Jeff, get casted for the show?
Well, that's a story in itself. With my wonderful, lovely, beautiful daughter, Megan, when she was bored on spring break with some friends down at the beach, and I think it was a rainy day, and so they were inside messing around on a computer, and somebody brought up the fact that she liked the show and watched the first season, and, hey, your dad's a preacher, which, you know, technically I'm really not, but, you know, they said, oh, it'd be fun, let's apply. Well, they weren't even casting at that point, so her and her friend sat down and she drafted up a letter and emailed it into a casting email address that they found online, and not expecting anything to come out of it other than killing some boredom during a rainy day.
and so then they called you?
She got some calls. Yeah, she got some callbacks from the casting director via email and wanting to speak to her more, and, hey, I need to interview you. Well, she started kind of freaking out a little bit then, like, oh my goodness, what have I done now? I got to come clean with mom and dad and let them know what's going on. And so she came to us to break the news, and I kind of responded in a typical fatherly fashion with, Megan, what have you done, and what have you gotten yourself into?
So what made you decide to do the show?
Well, when we sat down, my initial response right out the gates, first time she mentioned it, was absolutely not. We're not doing this. Just not interested. I don't think it's something that's meant for us. And later on that evening, me and Darlene sat down, her mom sat down, and we talked when she was upstairs. And I said, you know, I understand her excitement a little bit and not thinking it was going to happen or nobody would contact her. So if she wants to interview, no harm, no foul. You can do a Skype interview. We can monitor her doing phone interviews. No problem, because at some point it's going to go away. She'll understand it went away, and it's not going to be a big deal. Well, it never went away. It kept coming back around, and so I was praying over it, and God was working at that point, I have no doubt, because he would not let it go. And I started thinking, this is something God is wanting for our family to use as a ministry opportunity, and at some point I've got to listen.
And thank God you did, because it's a great show, and you are a very strong, stern father. You have a very good, strong father figure image that's coming across the television.
You know, it's just us. I'm kind of geeky sometimes. I'm kind of cool sometimes. And I'm kind of strict and hard sometimes. And a lot of people, especially those on the outside looking in, who only know us from 2 episodes and a few commercials, or who think they know us from a few episodes and commercials, you know, they think I'm a tyrant and I'm a dictator in my home, and that's not the case. I mean, I'm not beating them over the head with the Bible every time that they step wrong or do something wrong. And I'm still loving my kids because they're going to make bad decisions and they're going to need love through those bad decisions. That's how you learn.
True that. That's so true. Now, Megan, for you, how does it feel knowing that everything that you are tweeting or saying is being viewed by your entire congregation?
Well, since if you've watched the first couple of episodes, you know that I got in trouble for tweeting something as someone from my congregation saw it. So after that, I've been kind of careful about what I'm tweeting as to not make that mistake again. Looking back now, yeah, it was a dumb decision to tweet that. But yeah, now my parents follow me, so they know what I'm tweeting. They know what's going on. So, I mean, it doesn't really bother me anymore because I know what I'm tweeting is appropriate.
Now, for you, Megan, do you feel like that you're under a lot of pressure as a preacher's daughter, and do you feel that your life is now under a microscope?
I felt like my life was under a microscope before doing this show because that was one of the main things that is being shown is that my family is looked at differently, but we are just a normal family. So after doing the show, I don't think it's gotten greater in a sense because it was already there. But, yeah, I do feel the pressure of people looking at you and wanting you to be the example when sometimes I just want to be a normal teenager.
That is true. And Jeff, for you, how is your son Zach doing? You mentioned him on the show. How is he doing now?
Zach is absolutely great at the moment. He's still a recovering addict, and he will be a recovering addict for the rest of his life. And that's something that they talked to him about through the rehabs he's been in and through our conversations at home as a family. It's something that we're always going to deal with in his life. But he's been clean and sober for quite some time now. He's working a full-time job. He's got him a girlfriend, and they're in a very, very Christ-centered relationship, and things are going great for him.
That's good. Thank you for letting us know that. And for the both of you, have you met the other families on the show? And do you, Dad, Jeff, do you feel you have some of the same issues that the other fathers are dealing with as well with your daughter? Have you guys discussed those even before the show aired?
Yeah, we've met all the other families. I think the only person that I have not met yet personally is Nikita Koloff. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him, but everyone else I've met and I've spent some time with and talked to. The other fathers, Pastor Coleman and Pastor Elliott. And, we are dealing with a lot of the same things, but, we're dealing with the same things that a lot of normal fathers throughout all of our communities are dealing with today. Teenagers and experimentation, whether it be with alcohol or drugs, is rampant in our society. It was 30 years ago when I was a teenager and doing it, but it has grown, and it's become commonplace. And the problem is when these teens feel that they are invincible, so to speak, they tend to go overboard. And so as parents, I always tell everyone in our congregation from the time we started dealing with Zach and his problems is you've got to be able to talk to your children and your family openly, honestly, and bluntly about situations and issues that are going to embarrass you and embarrass them. If you're not having those conversations, it's going to be difficult, and you're going to get blindsided and not even see it coming.
That's true. Because that was going to be my question. I was going to ask you, what advice would you give to preachers raising daughters?
Can you say that again?
I said I was going to ask you, what advice would you give to preachers raising daughters? And you kind of answered that, just basically dealing with teens and people who are dealing and raising teenagers and, just some of the things that they're getting to.
Yeah, Megan is very smart. The thing that you're not seeing on the show, Megan is an honor student. We're looking at numbers of colleges right now who have offered her very, very good academic scholarships to come go to their schools, and she's extremely smart. She's got a high-level degree of her IQ, and she's not dumb by any stretch of the imagination, but she's 17. Well, she just turned 18 a week ago, and she has poor judgment at times. That's what teens do until they get a little older and get some maturity on them.
That's true. Now, what do you want the viewing audience to take away from watching your show?
The thing that I have told our congregation from day one, when I even mentioned the possibility about being in the show, was I want the world to see that any family, even the families that stand on your worship platforms on Sunday mornings, any family inside of a church is dealing with some issues and some problems. Those families that don't have issues and problems that they're dealing with are so few and far between. The church is full of people who have problems. I don't want anyone to sit at home, and I don't want a man in our community or across this country sitting in his living room thinking, I have a son who's a drug addict. I have a teenage daughter who's doing things she doesn't need to be doing. I will never fit in at church. I've got problems at work. I've got problems in my marriage. I can't go to church because those people don't understand my problems. They can't relate. They don't see and live with what I live with, so I can't be there. Wrong. We do see it. We do live with it. We deal with it, and Christ is the answer. That coming to the Lord as a family doesn't mean you're not going to have problems. It means you have an answer of how to solve that problem and get through them.
That is so good. And with that, I just want to remind the audience to make sure that they tune in and watch Preacher's Daughters Wednesdays, 9/8 Central on Lifetime. Jeff, that was a great nugget. Megan, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I look forward to watching the show because it's been really good and watching every daughter go through her own thing and watching how the families deal with it. Because, you know, my husband and I, we pastor the church too, and I have 2 daughters, so I totally understand what you're going through. So I don't just sympathize, I can empathize with you and your wife, Jeff. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show, and I look forward to having you back.
Thank you, Lady Charmaine. We look forward to coming back. Thank you for having us.
You are so welcome, and thank you again. Have a blessed day.
You too.